Hey gamers, welcome back to my channel. Today it will be rough, because it's a controversial topic that I know is going to stir up some heated debates. The most overrated video games. Now, before you head straight to the comments section with pitchfork, listen to me. These are just my personal opinion. I'm not saying these games are bad. In fact, most of them are highly polished, well loved by many, and even critically acclaimed. But for me, something just doesn't click, and I feel like the hype around these titles might be a little, let's say, exaggerated? Yeah, that's the term. So let's get started. Oh, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment. Do you agree, disagree? What are your picks for the most overrated game? Let's get the conversation going here. The first one I think is overrated is the Assassin's Creed Saga, released since 2007, developed by Ubisoft. And don't get me wrong, the Assassin's Creed franchise changed the gaming landscape in its early days. The open world design, historical setting, and parkour mechanics were revolutionary, but after 12 main games and counting on, it's hard to ignore that Assassin's Creed has become painfully repetitive. The formula is stale, the open world feel bloated, and Ubisoft continues to churn them out yearly like an assembly line. After the initial few titles, the franchise lost its magic for me. Sure, the newer games, Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, bring RPG mechanics and bigger maps, but bigger doesn't always mean better. Sometimes less is more, and Ubisoft seems to have forgotten that. So to be honest, the next one, Assassin's Creed Shadows, will be, in my opinion, just the same formula, without any real soul. Now, what do you think about that? Next game is also a franchise, the Call of Duty Saga, released since 2003 and developed by Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer Games. Call of Duty, the juggernaut of first-person shooters. Every year, without fail, we got another Call of Duty, and every year the formula remains largely unchanged. Multiplayer can be fun, but let's be honest, we've been playing the same game for over a decade. Sure, it's got new skins, weapons, and flashy campaigns, but it lacks innovation in my opinion. The hype around each release feels artificial, just another excuse to cash in on microtransactions. I am bored very quickly on every time I launch Call of Duty, so I really think that it's time for the team to take a break, innovate, and stop relying on nostalgia. No? What do you think about that? Zelda Breath of the Wild, released in 2017 by Nintendo. Okay, I know this one is going to cause an uproar because many claim that this is the perfect open world, reinventing everything we knew about those type of games. But Breath of the Wild for me is not the perfect game everyone makes it out to be. Don't get me wrong, the world is beautiful, the physics-based puzzles are neat, and it's great to see the franchise trying something new. But where's the real substance? The combat is shallow, the dungeons are forgettable, and the constant weapon breaking is just really annoying. The lack of a deep narrative makes Breath of the Wild feel like a tech demo of what Nintendo's capable of, greater than a fully fleshed out Zelda game. Overhyped? Yeah, in my opinion, definitely. The next one is an Epic Games treasure, released in 2017, Fortnite. Fortnite took the gaming world by storm when it introduced the Battle Royale mode, and I'll admit it was fun for a while, but now, after years of seasons, crossovers, and constant updates, is just too much. The gameplay hasn't evolved enough to keep it fresh, and the building mechanic, while unique, feels gimmicky. It's more of a social platform for kids and streamers than a serious competitive game at this point. Sure, it's a cultural phenomenon, but is it really the game that's keeping people engaged, or just the hype around the brand? That's the question. Now, a game released in 2022, developed by Blue 12 Studios, Stray was praised for its originality and the cute factor of controlling a cat in a dystopian cyberpunk world. And yeah, it's got style, but substance, not so much. The gameplay is extremely linear, offering little challenge or depth. For a game that relies on atmosphere, it fails to create enough tension or intrigue to keep you hooked. It's a glorified walking simulator and not an actual adventure for me. Stray might be fun for cat lovers, but it's far from the revolutionary indie game it was made out to be. Or maybe that's just because I prefer dogs? Yeah, probably, I don't know. The Far Cry games, developed by Ubisoft, used to be synonymous with open-world chaos and freedom of choice, but since Far Cry 4, the series has been stuck in a loop of recycled mechanics, bland villains, and copy-paste map design. Each new entry feels like it's trying too hard to be edgy, but without any meaningful innovation. It's long but for nothing, and at the end of the game I just felt like I was losing my time. The overuse of outposts, the predictable crazy dictator trope, and formulaic mission structure have made the series lose its charm. It's a franchise that peaked early and had been coasting on autopilot ever since. Let's jump to the next one. Developed by Irrational Games in 2013, Bioshock Infinite had sky-high expectation, and while it's a visually stunning game with interesting themes, it fails to live up the brilliance of its predecessor. The world of Columbia looks great, but the gameplay is nothing special. It's just a standard shooter with some powers thrown in, and the story overly complicated and trying way too hard to be profound. Infinite tries to blend deep socio-political commentary with quantum physics, and it just ends up being a muddled mess. It's more style than substance, and it's not nearly as clever as it thinks it is, in my opinion. So, just for me, is a very overrated game. Let's talk now about Square Enix games, and this one, Final Fantasy VII Remake, released in 2020, is a beloved classic, and when the remake was announced, fans went wild. But while it's visually stunning and offers some nostalgia, it's also plagued by tedious filler and overcomplicated battle system, and an ending that feels disconnected from the original. The nostalgia is strong, but if you strip that away, you're left with a game that drags on for too long and doesn't capture the same magic as the original. The episodic release format also feels like a cash grab. And now let's talk about Horizon, released in 2022 and developed by Guerrilla Games. While Horizon Zero Dawn was a solid game that I really enjoyed, even if not perfect, let's be honest, Horizon Forbidden West feels like it's trying too hard to be bigger and better, without addressing some core issues. The story is overly complicated, the world, while visually breathtaking, feels lifeless, and the gameplay gets repetitive really fast. The linearity of the game detracts from its open world appeal, and its attempt at social commentary feel forced. I never get attached to Aloy, which is very cliché for me. A strong independent woman who needs no man and everyone is obsessed with her just felt too forced for me. Okay, I totally understand feminism and totally agree that a woman can be strong. Don't misunderstand me, but in this game it was just too much, I think. It's a prime example of a sequel that's more focused on spectacle than refining the core experience. And finally the first one, which is really overhyped for me. Here's a hot take: The Last of Us Part 2, developed by Naughty Dog, released in 2020. It's an emotional roller coaster, but that doesn't mean it's a great game. The narrative choices, especially around Joel's death and Abby's arc, felt forced and divisive. The game spends too much time trying to make us sympathize with characters that just don't work, in my opinion, and the inclusion of progressive themes, like the focus on Lev's story, feels oddly misplaced in a brutal, post-apocalyptic world where survival should be the main focus. I really didn't understand why Abby tried so much to risk her life for Lev, which she just met, as she had nothing better to do. That's just me, but I think The Last of Us Part 2 was more concerned with shock value than telling a coherent, satisfying story. Now, I know some of you are going to disagree, and that's totally fine. Gaming is a personal experience, and what resonates with one person might not work for someone else, but that's what makes this conversation fun. Let me know in the comments which games you think are overrated, or if you agree with any of my picks. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hot take and gaming content. See you next time, bye bye.